And I'd like to tell you that I got the biggest hands in the world, right? Because you know what big hands mean. But I don't. I got average hands, guys. And look, it doesn't fit in here, right? You've seen me wearing this Origin camo for the last 9 months throughout the hunting season and a bunch of my videos on the thumbnails. Everybody is asking my opinion on it, and I've stayed pretty quiet until now. I wanted to try this stuff in the field, and I put it to the test. A total of 9 big game hunts. I wore basically only Origin gear. I did work in a couple little pieces from other companies because there's a little bit of a hole in their layering system, but I'm jumping ahead. I'll talk about that a little bit later. First, I want to touch on something that I view as a major positive from this company. Pete and these guys have developed a company that's really mission driven, and I'm not one to only buy stuff because it's supporting, this cause or that cause, but this is one area where I make an exception because I believe that if you're a hunter, it's very likely that self-reliance, the American dream, bringing back jobs to the U.S., our competitive place in this world, if that's important to you, the mission that Origin supports across its company, not just in the hunting brand, it should be important to you. I wanted to explain that bias because I think that is a very important part of the base strength of this company when it comes to the hunting world. And it is the only hunting gear company that I have proactively contacted to see if I could help them improve the product because I'm a very big believer in that mission. All right, so let's jump into a couple of the layers. This is their stealth wool jacket. This is probably my favorite layer from Origin. Let me throw it on here real quick for you. I use this a ton, pretty much on all of the hunting I did this last year. I like the fit of it. I like the look of the camo pattern, right? That's gonna be personal preference. I don't necessarily think that it's more effective than Kuyu's patterns or Sitka's patterns. The science around camo patterns is just a little bit overblown. As long as it breaks your outline a bit, I think it's doing its job. Outside of that, it's personal preference. I like the look of it. I think Kip did a great job. I think he's the one who put this together. I think it's a cool pattern. Now, a couple things I really like about the material, and I found this through all the different layers, right? I haven't used the parka in this context. It might be the exception, but the pants, all the mid layers, all the shirts, even the shorts that I wear quite often actually, all of them have soft material. So this stealth wool is soft and quiet. So I haven't had an issue with it in the inside. Like here, like itching, even if I wear this against bare skin, it hasn't been an issue for me. It's got a little texture to it, but I haven't had a problem with it at all. And that softness makes for a really quiet move through the woods, right? If you're hitting a little brush or whatever, moment of silence, listen. I have a mic right here, so listen. You can probably hear that, but listen out here. This is me scratching as hard as I can. You can't hear anything. So it's very soft, which is nice for archery season, nice when you want to be quiet, nice when you're moving through thick stuff. In terms of the weight to how warm it is, I think it's comparable to a lot of the layers that I've always used. Merino wool stuff, the mix of merino wool with other types of materials. I can think a decent comparable to this is First Light's Sawtooth jacket. I love that jacket. I like the utility of it. I like the warmth to weight ratio. I think it's a great jacket. This jacket is very comparable from a utility perspective. And that's a compliment. That's one of my favorite all-time pieces of hunting gear out there. So those are things I really like about the system as a whole, is the material choice makes sense. I personally also like the dullness of the camo. I don't know that everybody's gonna like this, and you can see the material actually changes on the stealth wool jacket. You can see here it's actually kind of the crisper camo on the back. I think that's a little bit different material just to keep up the durability, right? Areas where it's gonna wear different. You can see here on the elbows, it's gonna wear a little different, whereas I think this wool, if it was exposed to the same, roughness that your elbows are gonna get, that sort of thing, that they're concerned about the durability. So they changed the material. I actually think that the dullness, the camo that looks like it's been worn a little bit, I actually think that it blends in better. Most of the other hunting companies, you're not seeing, you know, this kind of washed look in their camo at all. All right, so on the Ninja Nano Wool, I'm just gonna throw it on to show you guys some things that I really do like about it. So my general view on, you know, some of the more technical features that have been put in to these layers, they've kept it pretty simple. You know, they haven't overcomplicated it, and I think in general that's a good thing. I'll talk about it a little bit when I get to the negatives, because I think there's a few things that they could improve on that front. For the weight of it and the bulk of it, it's pretty darn warm, which is kind of surprising. I actually think that the face mask, which I'm sure is where it gets its ninja name, this face mask right here, I actually think that this extra layer around my neck, for me, maybe it's because I'm a skinny little dork, but that actually keeps my neck warm and my head warm a little bit, so that's nice for such a light layer. I actually think that's pretty handy. I actually think that the mask is pretty darn handy. If you're archery elk hunting, you're turkey hunting or whatever, it's nice just to have a built-in mask. And it's pretty seamless. Like, it's just, there's not much to it, but it works. I like the design of that. And the thing is that if you don't want it, even if you don't want the extra warmth around your neck, like say you're wearing this, you know, just because you want, you know, full coverage, you don't necessarily want to be warm in this, you know, you're hunting in an arid environment, early season elk hunting or something, and you want this not around your neck, the nice thing about it is they're smart about how they did it. It's easy just to get it off of there, and now it's literally sitting on the back of my head here, right, or on my back. It's basically a part of the hood here. So you can see that right there. I can put the hood on without it, which is pretty darn nice. Throw it back here, wear it without anything, or I could still use my hood. And it's kind of funny, like the way the hood is, when you have it back there like that, the hood kind of sticks to your head. It has a band in it there that is part of the hood, but I actually like that. It might look pretty funny. I'm gonna look at myself here. It's not like a huge hood where there's a bunch of air movement in here. Like, I want my hood to stick to my head, right? So I actually think that that's pretty nice, and that's a function of this. I don't know if they did that on purpose or not, but this is super cool, and it makes me like this layer a whole lot more. I think that's a great simple thing that they've integrated in, which is honestly pretty freaking genius. The technical things that they've built in, they've kept them simple. And the nice thing about that for a mountain hunter in particular, where you're in remote areas, you're in the backcountry, you're in a situation where you're rough on gear, but also if things break, it's a major pain in your ass, having little features that give you some utility but are durable and simple, that's huge. And overall, Origin does a really good job on that. This little face mask on this Ninja Nano Wool Hoodie is a perfect example of that. And I'll show you another one that I really like in their pants. But this is one layer that I'm a huge fan of. These two layers that I just showed you, the stealth wool jacket, particularly if they improve a couple things that I'm gonna talk about here in a minute, but that layer and this Nano Wool Hoodie, those to me are essential layers from Origin. The shorts we don't really need to talk about. I wear the shorts all the time, really just a fashion statement. If you love the camo pattern, buy the shorts. That's all I can really say about them. Outside of that, they're just shorts. These pants, in my view, are gonna be very comparable to Prana Zion's or maybe Kuyu's attack pant, right? These are not a cold weather pant, but I use this type of pant, particularly, I've used the Prana Zions a ton, particularly on hunts that I don't need camo, so outside of archery elk hunts, that's my go-to pants. All the sheep hunts you see me guiding, all the goat hunts you see me guiding, and we're talking about stuff at high elevation where it gets pretty darn cold, like colder than what most people would wear this type of pant in. I still prefer a lightweight pant like this, but I control the warmth I need and the temperature I want my pants at based on the base layer. So that's where I'm manipulating that. I like a lightweight outer pant. One, so I'm never really hot. I don't like my legs to run real hot, particularly when I'm active. If you get into wearing these later season pants, these warmer pants from all the different hunting companies, it limits the utility of the pant because you can't use them pretty much all through September and maybe even like the first week of October in a lot of different geographies on a lot of different hunts in the US. These lighter pants allow for that. So I'm a big proponent of these. Just make them warmer by using different weights of base layers. So I did that with the Field Pant over all these different hunts. I do that with Prana Zions. I've done that with the tack pants from Kuiu. This is my go-to pant. They're lightweight and I like it. So another super cool feature of these pants that is a very simple utility technical aspect that they've put in here is the split pocket. Let me show you this. The pocket is split in the middle. There's two little cavities in the pocket, right? So that little simple technicality makes this big pocket very useful. If you put, a radio on one side of that and then maybe your phone on the other side of the pocket, it's amazing. Even if you're trekking through pretty crazy terrain, they will stay separate. It's amazing, like the depth of that is perfect. So I actually really like that. It's simple. It's literally a line of stitching. They've made that pocket a whole lot more useful. Now, I'm going to get into it, but that is along the lines of some things I don't like about these pants too. But another thing I do like is they don't have rear pockets. I hate rear pockets on hunting pants because you're always sitting down, you're always glassing off of your butt. So I either get the zipper stuck in, just always grinding into my butt or whatever. The other thing is if you're going through fence lines and stuff, if you look at a lot of my hunting pants, you'll see where the back pockets are torn up. The zippers have gotten on barbed wire fence, that sort of thing, as I went through fence lines or whatever. So it's just a point of wear and a pain in the ass. You can't really put anything in your back pockets anyways. But I'm just going to say it right now. One critique I have of these pants is that they've removed the rear pockets, which, like I said, they're worthless anyways, but they are at least a pocket, to keep your crap organized in. They have just simple pockets that you find on all pants in terms of here, your hand pockets, and then your cargo pockets are, it's nice that they're split, but that's all you have. I prefer a hunting pant that has more pockets in it, has a little more technical thought on the pocket system. I know that some people will disagree with that, but I'm just telling you, every guy that I've hunted with up in the mountains, experienced hunter that I've hunted with up in the mountains, having different pockets accessible on your pants is a big deal. It's not a minor deal, right? Because I might have a rangefinder in one of those pockets, I might have a magazine in one of those pockets, I might have a knife in one of those pockets, I might have a radio in one of those pockets, and I want them all separate. And believe me, if you find me on the mountain in most of my hunting pants, what you're gonna find is that I have specific things in specific pockets, and I never change that. They're always in the same spot, and that's important to me just to keep shit organized. So one critique I have, and I'm jumping ahead before I jump into critiquing different things, but I gotta say this is I'd love to see another pocket, at least on the cargo pocket front here on the pants. But outside of that, awesome pants, very comparable in terms of like temperatures and where they're gonna fit into your layering system as your Pranas, attack pants, maybe a little bit, slightly heavier than attack pants. I can't really recall right off the top of my head. I don't have a pair of mine here, but in that realm, right? Just so you have a good idea of what you're looking at. All right, so before I bust their balls a little bit, just overall, I talked about my favorite layers out of their system. So stealth wool jacket, Field Pant is a go. This Nano hoodie, the Nano Ninja hoodie, and then the Parka. The Parka is just a Parka. I didn't find anything, I don't have anything negative to say about it, anything crazy positive to say about it. As a cold weather layer, it's great, right, for late season stuff. No complaints. I also use this quite a bit. This is their Kilo cotton hoodie. It's super comfortable. It's a really, heavy, durable hoodie. That's all I can say about it. It's not going to be like the best hunting gear for a lot of the type of hunts I do, just because cotton, particularly as a thicker layer, you got to be a little wary of it just because it's performance in moisture and snow and that sort of thing. But in terms of, casual hunts or just wearing around, that's a great layer too. You can tell it's high quality. It's not a cheap hoodie. So these three pieces though, the Field Pant, the stealth wool jacket, and this hoodie I'm wearing right here, if you combine it with your favorite base layer, and at different layers of weight. You can use the Origin base layers too. I've used them. To me, they're real comparable to other people's base layers. Personally, I still prefer First Light or other merino wool perfected base layers. Those are still my favorite by far. So I'm using those within the system. Now this system right here, you can get through with some base layers through most your hunts until, let's say, like first rifle. I think you're going to be pretty comfortable. You might want to have, one more layer, like maybe your Parka, that sort of thing, depending on what elevation you're hunting, what kind of temperatures and snow you're dealing with. But this is pretty well thought out in that regard. I think the choices of the different layers, Origin has put a lot of thought into that, and with a pretty simple product line, they're covering a lot of different types of hunting. So I give them huge props for that, because it keeps it simple. They're not trying to sell people 1,000 different pants, 1,000 different upper outer layers, right? They've just got a pretty basic product line that covers a lot of different hunts. So huge props there on that. It's pretty darn durable. You can see the stuff here. The stuff has been, on 9 big game hunts. There's not threads falling off, nothing unusual wear and tear wise, right? There's nothing fancy about the gear. I will tell you guys that. I think, there's not like a bunch of, internal linings. There's not a lot of different materials in one, piece of the layering system. There's just not a lot of complexity, and I'm sure that is correlated to their manufacturing process and the fact that they're integrated into the manufacturing process. So they're trying to keep it simple, to keep costs under control, and to be able to consistently put out the product. But one of the things about that is I think it actually results in more durability within the simplicity, right? There's just, there's not much to go wrong. There's not a lot to get hung up on shit and that sort of thing. If I had one complaint about the layering system, I'd really like to see a Puffy. I'm a Puffy guy. I use them a lot. Like if I had this with a Puffy, I could go in to first rifle season and 90% of the days, this is all I'm gonna wear. Yeah, sure, in case of a snowstorm or something, I'll have a Parka or another layer. It would be great to have a Puffy in the mix, in my view. So I'd love to see that out of Origin. I don't know where they're at on that. I haven't talked to them about that in particular, so I don't know. Now, rain gear-wise, they don't have it out yet, but I have seen, I actually saw that Kip posted about it. They've got rain gear coming down the pipeline. I'm guessing it'll be a pretty good product, but I haven't tested it at this point. It's probably going to be, another season through before I test it. But outside of that, this is a great set of layers for a lot of different hunts. Now, let's bust their balls a little bit on a few technical things that I think could be improved and will slowly lead to a more technical product, but at the same time, not giving up a lot of the things I just talked about, the things that I like about the brand, right? This is the dynamic that Origin is going to have to play with, as they get better, as they improve, particularly because they're integrated into manufacturing. They can't get into doing super complicated technical stuff, and that takes away from some of the benefits I just talked about. But I do think there's a few things they can do that'll greatly improve the product that are technical things. So let's dive right into it. All right, so I'm going to throw back on the Stealth Wool Hoodie here that I praised is my favorite layer of theirs. All right, I got to get in close because we got to talk about something on this. So everybody's wearing a bino harness, right? But this pocket right here on your upper layer, particularly if it's going to be your outer layer a lot of the time, this pocket is important. On this Stealth Wool jacket, as it is right now, this is a bullshit pocket for 2 reasons. It's too small, right? You can maybe fit like a Tika magazine in here, but you're going to struggle to get it out, right? Maybe you could stick, something in there. But I use this a lot. A lot of times I'll use this for a radio. I'll use it for a magazine, or depending on how I have things organized with my pants pockets or whatever, I'll put my phone up here because I don't want a magazine or a phone, something essential in my bigger pockets down here with a bunch of other stuff because I'm going in and out. One, I put my hands in here sometimes just to warm them up, but I'm using these for storage of other things, right? And there might be like a mixed bag of things. I don't want my phone to end up on the ground. It's essential now to hunting. I got my Onyx on it. It's essential to life for better or worse, right? So I don't want it in there. If I drop a magazine out and now I'm missing a magazine. Those things are like 50 bucks on most rifles now, so I don't want it here. I like to use this pocket. It's a very secure pocket. So it can't be too small to get my hands in it, right? And I'd like to tell you that I got the biggest hands in the world, right? Because you know what big hands mean. But I got average hands, guys. And look, it doesn't fit in here, right? The other problem with it is, and the other hunting companies that are doing this, is one small tilt, right? Tilt that zipper out and make it a little bit longer, bigger pocket. And this thing from a utility perspective is going to be way more useful. So that's just like a little nitpicky thing, but I do think that could be improved on this particular jacket. I'd like to see a pocket built on top of this cargo pocket for extra storage that's zippered, right? Sitka has a very cool pocket like that goes on the outside, the outside layer of these pockets. And I know it's going to be harder for them to manufacture, goes probably against the grain a little bit in terms of simplicity, but it's the same idea as that chest pocket. That's a technical thing that I do use a whole lot, and these pants could benefit that given their lack of storage. But another part of these pants where Origin could kick ass on the technical front, back to the jiu-jitsu analogy, is integrate some sort of flat belt, man, like this Prana belt. My idea for Origin is they've already got a super cool ratcheting belt that they use on their gi pants, their jiu-jitsu gi pants. Integrate that sucker in to your field pants. All right, so a lot of people are gonna say, Cliff, an integrated belt in your hunting pant, that's a very specific preference for you. I would argue that most people that say that have never used one, particularly in the context of backpack hunting. If you have an integrated belt, like these Prana pants have, or exactly how Origin could do. They could do it. I know they could. I'm not a manufacturing textile genius or anything, but I do know that they could integrate in their jiu-jitsu gi belt, which is pretty badass. They could integrate that in here, and they could have a very similar thing to what Prana has. These belts are huge for backpack hunters. When you put on that backpack, particularly if you put meat in it and now it's much heavier than it was before, it's gonna push your pants down. So now you need a belt. Now, if you always wear a belt like I do, because I don't have much for hips, so pants are always sliding off of me, particularly how these field pants fit, I've gotta have a belt on them, so I always have a belt. Now, when I throw my backpack on, yeah, I can get away with a belt, my normal belt under my good backpack belt. I can get away with it when my backpack's light, right? It may not be the most comfortable, but I can get away with it. Now, when I put meat in that pack and I get heavy and I'm going downhill, there's no way I can have a belt under my backpack belt. But these slim belts right here, these integrated belts, they're huge because I can use that and there's no friction there because it's so thin and it's so basic that it holds the pants up. The weight of the pack and the waist belt on the pack that's heavy loaded is not going to push my pants down where I'm sagging off of my ass, But at the same time, I'm going to have that belt there holding it up, but there's not going to be any friction between the two belts, which is intolerable. If you've packed elk quarters out in a backpack, there's no way you can tolerate that. So an integrated belt is huge. Just in general, it's awesome utility, and I think Origin, it's gonna be even cooler than your Ninja Nano Wool simple face mask deal. That integrated belt would kill it. So that's not really a critique. It's more just a suggestion to make a pretty damn good product you got, the Field Pant, into an even cooler product and a more technical product, and you're just gonna go up the tiers of hunting gear if you integrate stuff like that. So that's my rant on that. Please do it, Pete. Please do it, Jocko. Please do it, Joe. I think you guys will like it. I think a lot of hunters out there will like it. On this backpack side of things, another thing that's nice is an integrated way to hold your clip knife, right? Or just like a little pocket here, because what happens is you've got that big heavy waist belt on all the time, so you don't have access to like a sheath knife that's on your belt. Let me see here. A lot of guys are using these Kydex. I see a lot of guys with Kydex sheaths on their backpack. Their shoulder straps, that sort of thing. I don't like those. I like to have my knife on me in case I drop my bigger pack, and I can't have it on, you know, in a standard classic sheath, because the backpack's gonna conflict with that for the same reason I talked about a normal belt on either. So I like to have a knife in my pocket for a utility, from a utility standpoint. I really like, and Kip, this is a suggestion for you, because I think in the Under Armour pants, you're probably the brains behind the outside pocket they used to have for clip knives, right? So the nice thing about an outside pocket for a clip knife is twofold. And Sitka has this in their Timberline pants. At least they used to. They may have taken it out. I don't know now. But when you put that in there and there's a separate pocket there, it keeps your knife away from your phone or anything with screens in that pocket where your knife is going to bang against it and scratch stuff. I've done that a whole lot. So I like to have this in a separate sleeve here, like a separate pocket or an outer pocket for my knife. The other thing is you can use that for wind checker too. If it's a tight pocket, you know, you can actually have it where guys can use it for a wind checker if they're not using a clip knife. So there's a lot of utility in that. It's a super simple thing. Add one of those extra little pockets. Your pants are already very simple, so you got to add a little more utility there for guys that are trying to keep their shit organized. And being able to separate your knife from anything with screens makes the usability of your hand pocket go way, way up. The other thing is if you're just clipping a knife on this type of material, it tends to move around a lot and flop like that. So add that other material in there where you can do that. It's twofold utility. I think that would be a huge bonus. If you add in these little technical aspects that I mentioned, I think this layering system would be world class. Right now, it's very good. It's very comparable to the other options out there. So if you guys are just looking at next season, you're looking for archery elk hunts, you're looking for mule deer hunts in October, that sort of thing, I can tell you for a fact this stuff will get you through and you'll be supporting an awesome company. If you like this video, you like these gear reviews on new stuff that's coming out there in the hunting world, go check out my video on image stabilization binoculars. I think you'll like it. Again, it's another kind of mixed opinion, but it's based on my real world experience with those binoculars and that technology. Go check it out. If you found this video useful, do me a huge favor, like it, subscribe to the channel. I'll catch you guys later.